Hit it, hit it.
Hi, welcome to Beginner Basics Crochet with Marley Bird. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to do the fantail stitch. This is a great beginner stitch to learn, so let's add that to your crochet toolbox. Come on over here and let's learn now. As I pull over the blanket and look at the square that we're going to be working on today, it's this square right here. On my blanket, it's located at the upper right corner. And what happens is we're going to begin down here and we're going to create sort of like shells, only by adding a chain stitch between these shells to mix up or to break up the double crochets, we're going to create this beautiful fantail stitch. If I wanted to create this stitch for another pattern, maybe I didn't want to have it just in the blanket, it's a beautiful lace stitch. So this is a wonderful one to jump in and add to this blanket. So let's learn how to do that. I'm going to pull this aside. All right, let's take a look at the pattern. Just like all the other squares, we're going to begin with an in-class block square measurement. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to chain 22 and then follow along either with our written instructions or our chart instructions. In this lesson, I'm going to follow along in the chart so that way you can read the written instructions in the pattern and then see how the chart applies to the written instructions, and it will really help you out as far as understanding how charts work. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab my fiber. And I am using worsted weight red heart with love yarn. I'm going to scooch that out of the way. And just a basic size 6mm crochet hook. You can use whatever size yarn or crochet hook you want for this square. It is up to you depending on what size gauge you want to get for your measurement. I'm beginning with a slip knot on my chain hook. Or I'm beginning with a slip knot on my hook, not my chain hook, on my hook. I'm going to chain 22. So let's go ahead. As I'm counting, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. I feel like I should be going after I start counting. And I look over here. I can either read the instructions along this way, but as I said, I'm going to refer to the chart. What's really great about this pattern is I've charted out the exact number of chains as I have written out for the class block. So you will count there that there are 22 chains. That's what those little ovals are. And I can see just by looking at the chart that it looks like I'm going to put a single crochet, that cross, into the second chain from hook. So knowing that I do not count the first chain on my hook, or the loop on my hook as a chain, I'm going to count 1, 2, and I'm going to put a single crochet right there into that chain. Looking at my chart, I can see there's a single crochet in the next chain stitch over as well. So I'm going to do that. As I look at my chart, I can see I'm going to skip 1, 2, 3 chains, and in the fourth chain, I'm going to put 3 double crochets, a chain 1, and 3 double crochets. That is all going to go into that one chain stitch right there, you guys. All right. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to yarn over my hook so I can create my double. I'm going to skip 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to go into my fourth chain. For this chain to work into it, it really doesn't matter whether you go into the back loop or the back loop and the butt or the front loop, whatever works for you, however you want the edge of your block to look. That is what you want to do. So I've done 3 double crochets. I'm going to do 3 more. Again, all of these are going into the one chain. You're going to notice that it sort of eats up the space for the chains side by side or next to this one. They're all right there into this chain. And then you can see this chain over here that was next to it, it's really thin. It almost disappears. So sometimes I will scooch those stitches over and just to kind of get that chain stitch to appear a little bit more clearly. I come back over here to my chart and I see 1, 2, 3 chain stitches are skipped. I'm going to do a single in the next chain, chain 1, and skip a chain, and do a single in that next chain. So we are going to skip 1, 2, 3. I'm going to put a single in the fourth chain, chain 1, skip a chain, and do a single in the next chain. See how easy this is? I really hope that the chart is helping you because it helps me see, like visualize what it is I'm doing. So I'm going to skip 1, 2, 3, and in the 4th chain again, I'm going to do the 3 double crochets, the chain 1, and the 3 double crochets. So I'm yarning over my hook, I'm skipping 1, 2, 3, going into the 4th one, and all of those stitches are going to go in there. I'm going to undo this. If you notice, I had a lot of slack behind my yarn over, and I don't want that. It makes it untidy, so I'm going to do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I keep that nice and snug, it makes it a lot cleaner of a look. There we go. That looks better. 2, 3. So there's 3 doubles, a chain 1. I need 3 more doubles into this stitch. This is fun, you guys, huh? Learning a new stitch, learning how to incorporate the stitches you've already learned through the various videos to get new stitch patterns. This is great. So I've completed my fantail. I'm skipping 1, 2, 3 chains, and then I'm going to finish up with a single and a single. So if I have done everything correctly, I'm going to skip 1, 2, 3, and that leaves me with 2 chain stitches, which is perfect. That's just what I need. I'll do 1 single and the 2nd single right there. All right, so I've completed my first fantail row. If I were to set this next to that, can you see how the fantail first row resembles the way the chart looks? That's why I find the chart so handy to use. Sometimes I can get really confused with the words to remember where I am in the pattern. I am going to go ahead and I'm going to grab a marker and I'm going to come back here, and I know that my single crochet, that's the last stitch for my next row, and I know that because working along the next row I can see the last symbol there goes into that stitch. So I'm going to come back here and I'm going to mark that single crochet so that I know that is the end of my row, because I like to do that. It's so handy to be able to do that. All right, so I'm grabbing my hook and my yarn, and we've completed this whole first row, so we're going up to row 2. You can see my number 2 out there. And we're going to begin with 2 chain stitches. So we're starting with 2 for our turning chain. So 1, 2, and then it looks like we have a half double crochet work directly into that single crochet right there. Remember that the half double crochet symbol is the big T that does not have the cross on the middle of the stem or the post of the T. As you do the cross, that's a symbol of how many times you would yarn over your hook and create stitches. So the 1 cross is a double crochet, and we don't have a cross on this symbol, so we know it's a half double. So I'm going to put my half double crochet right there into that single, and then I can see 1, 2, 3 chains, and I'm going to single crochet right into that chain 1 right there. If you decide you want to work into the chain 1 stitch, you totally can do that. But for me, I don't like to create any sort of brain damage. I like to say, oh look, there's a big hole there. I'm going to stick my hook right in that hole, and I'm going to create my single crochet right there. If you like to do it the other way, let's rip this out and see how that goes. You can come here and say, okay, I'm going to work into the chain. Let's see, work directly into the chain. I'm going to complete my single crochet. I want you to notice something. You see the bottom part of the chain right there? That's the butt of the stitch. I've talked about it in the chain section. So when you work into the chain, you actually get kind of this unsightly butt hanging out. I don't like my butt hanging out, so that's why I like to go into the actual space and work the single crochet. It just makes a much cleaner look. See? So no butts hanging out. It's perfect. Okay, so on the chart, we can see that it is chain 3 again. And we're going to do a V-stitch, a half double crochet V-stitch. All that is, it's a half double into the space again. We're doing the chain 1 space. And then we're going to do a chain 1. And we're going to do another half double into that same space. So that's going to give us this nice little V stitch right there. We look at the chart over here. We just completed this. So there's our V-stitch. And we're counting 1, 2, 3 chains. 1, 2, 3. You'll notice that when I'm reading the chart, I'm snaking around the chart. I'll be going like this because that's what we're doing as we work things, as we turn them back and forth. I'm doing a single crochet again to my chain 1 space, chain 3, and I'm right here. So I'm going to put 2 half double crochets into my marked stitch. So yeah, I'm leaving all of these stitches unworked. I'm not going to do anything to them. So this goes really fast. I come all the way over here to my stitch that I have marked, and I'm going to put 2 half double crochets. So there's 1, and then here's 2. All right, so here we are. Set this aside. We've completed our second. Got that so far? All right, so we're down here. Let's do our third. Let's chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and turn. I like to chain 3 and then turn, or chain my number and then turn, but that is not something you have to do. If you decide you want to turn first and then chain, it's totally your prerogative. I've had this discussion with several different designers, and either way will work. It doesn't really make much of a difference in your pattern itself. So if a pattern is written that it's turn then chain 2, or chain 2 then turn, either way you want to do it is absolutely fine. I prefer to chain my amount and then turn. So I've done that, and if I'm looking at my chart, I can see I have 1, 2, 3 double crochets, and I know they're double crochets because it's the big T with the 1 hash mark, and they're all worked into that same space, that the top of the last half double I completed from the previous row. So I'm going to put all 3 double crochets right here at the edge. Simple so far, right? Hopefully you're following along and everything's going okay. Your butt's not hanging out anymore. You're like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. Learning how to do some chain stitches. All right, so we've completed these doubles, and I look over here, oh look, I have a single, a chain, and a single. But Marley, am I going to put those singles in that chain, or am I going to let them, go around the chain, the 3 chain space, so my butt's not hanging out? My answer is it's up to you. I prefer to put it in the space because I like to give the lace a little bit of room to maneuver around a little bit. But if you want to put it in that chain stitch, you absolutely can. More power to you. It's not going to make much of a difference in the final look. So I went right into that space. I'm going to chain 1, and I'm skipping this single crochet. I'm jumping right over here. So we have this big chain 3 space, and I'm just putting my single crochet right there. Now I've got to do double crochets into the chain 1 space of my V-stitch. So I'm yarning over. I'm going to go into that chain 1 space of my V-stitch, and I'm putting the 3 double crochets along with a chain 1. You guys getting the hang of this so far? Kind of see how this begins to build on itself? It's just a matter of doing sort of that setup row with the half doubles, and then on your row coming back, that's when you're adding the fans. And by the placement of the fans, whether we start them all, or I'm not going to say whether, I'm going to say we stagger them, so we have them as diagonal to each other, which is just really, it just makes it so visually appealing. All right, so here we are again. I'm putting my single crochet in my chain 3 space. I'm going to chain 1, skip my single, come over here to this chain 3 space because I don't like to worry about space and stuff. So right here, you can see on the chart, I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4 double crochets in the top of this chain 2. I did not mark this stitch yet, and I didn't mark it on purpose because I wanted you to see kind of how difficult it is to go into that stitch or find where it is if you don't mark it. So I'm over here and I'm looking around. I'm like, oh, I forgot to mark it, but where is it? Well, this V part right here goes to this stitch, and then there's a chain there and there's a chain there. So that's the second chain of my turning chain. So I can find it without it being marked, but it's a little bit trickier. It's not as easy as if it were marked up, right? So let's go ahead and make sure we mark all of our first and last stitches of the row to make it a lot easier on ourselves, don't you think? So if I set that down, I'll set it down over here along the white. You can see there's a partial fan. Right there's the partial fan. Here's a partial fan. Right there's a partial fan. And here's a full fan. We did it right there. Can you see how that's working up? Perfect. I'm going to take you through this full repeat so that way you guys can see how this all works. While I'm here, let's go ahead and move this chain up, and we are going to put it, look at this, when we come back with row 4, our single crochet is going to get worked into the top of that chain 3. So let's mark the top of that chain 3, So we know that that's it. That's where we're going to be working into, okay? And then on this one, we're going to mark this at the beginning so we don't have to go back and look. But we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to single crochet into the top of that first double, because that's what it says right there. Now, my question is, where do I mark, right? So before, we've been working into these turning chains, right? But over here, we have this chain, but it's on the outside of our chart. That's because we don't want it to count as a stitch. You ever have that question where, do I count this chain as a stitch? Do I not count this chain as a stitch? One thing that's fantastic about using the chart is we can see exactly where we want our stitches to go. So if we're putting the stitch from the next row into those turning chains, we know we're counting that turning chain as a stitch. But if our turning chain is out here on the outside, then we are like, oh, that's not going to be our first stitch. This next stitch, the single crochet, is going to be the last stitch of that next row. And I know that because I can see that my single crochet is stacked on top of it. Does that make sense? I really hope so. So I'm going to grab a marker. I'm going to put it right there in the top of that single crochet. And now it's marked and I'm ready to go. I'm going to chain 3. So this is just like our previous chain 4 row, only we're putting our the stitches we're creating in different places. I'm coming all the way over here. I'm skipping all of these stitches to where I did my single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, and I'm going to the space with my half double, chain 1, and then put a half double. And then I'm going to chain 3, 2, 3, and I'm going to come all the way over here. So this is my chain 1 space between my fantail. I'm going to put a single right there. I'm going to put a chain 3, 1, 2, 3, half double all the way over here again. If you need a refresher on double crochets and half doubles, you guys, you can check those out in the beginner basics section. Half double crochet and single crochet, they're all there. So if you need a refresher, that's where you want to go. So that I finished this V-stitch right there. I just finished that. I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and I can see on my chart that they want me to put a single crochet in the top of that chain 3 section. So I have it marked already. I'm going to put my single crochet right there, and bada bing, we have that completed. Can you see how that works, you guys? So we've completed this foundation row. We've worked, I like to call this as, you know, the non-action row. And then our row 3 is the big action row because that's when we really add our fantails. Then row 4 is our non-action row because it gets us set up so that row 5 you can do your action row again. So row 5 is going to be our last row for this repeat. Here we go. Are we ready? So we're down here. We've come across. We're going to chain 1. And that chain 1 is on the outside, meaning it's not going to count as a stitch, okay? We can see we put a single crochet right there in the top of that single crochet. I'm going to move my marker up and I'm going to point out that obviously in my chart there's not another row. So as I've been going before to see what row was above to see where our marker would go based on what the stitch is going into, there's not there on the chart anymore. But I want to point out if you come back down here where the repeat is, because you're going to repeat row 2, you'll finish row 5, you'll come back down here and you'll repeat row 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can see, oh, on row 2 it goes right into that single crochet, which is this single crochet right there. So I'm going to mark my single. That's going to be the end of my row. Hope that makes sense. I'm going to put my single crochet right here at the edge of my chain 3 space. It's just going in the space, you guys. Now I'm going to do my fantail all the way over here in the middle of my V stitch. So there's 1 double, and then here's 2 double, 3 double, chain 1, 3 double. Hopefully you guys are sticking with me and everything's going okay on your end. Looking pretty good, right? Big fat yarn and some good size hook. So we have our nice space there. I'm going to skip 3 stitches and we're coming all the way over here and we're going to put our single crochet into that chain 3 space, chain 1, single crochet in the chain 3 space, just like before, and then we're going to start our fan over here again in the top of that half double crochet from the previous row. Right there, chain 1, half double crochet, or not half double, I apologize, I'm getting all excited. I'm doing a double crochet in these fantails. And then I come all the way over here, I'm going to put a single crochet at the edge of this chain 3 space, and then a single crochet where my marked stitch is. See how much easier it is when the stitch is marked? You can see where the edge is. So if I extend this up, just set this over here, you can see now how the chart is a good representation, visual representation of what we've created. So that's how charts can be super handy. If you're still not a chart person, absolutely okay. You have full instructions on how to do this exact stitch pattern written out. It is available in the Crochet Stitch Sampler Baby Blankets pattern, or I have the pattern written out right here as you're trying out the fantail stitch to complete the in-class block. Now you know how to do the fantail stitch.